using the parlays against one another, right? And being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into an all-new bare knuckle fighting main event here on SportsGrid. I'm Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us as we take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of the bare knuckle fighting championships. We had some action going over the weekend, over the Memorial Day weekend. There was a fight down in Mexico. We'll talk about that fight night in just a moment. We got action coming up this weekend that we'll preview later on. We're going to be talking about that Prospect Series card out in Denver coming up this weekend that you can all watch. And you know what? Let's talk about some fights coming up next month because this card is so stacked. You got to start getting them in now, right? June 21st down in Hollywood, Florida. We are going to have those 3 title fights on the line, and we'll bring on 3 of the combatants that are going to be fighting for those straps. 2 of them defending, 1 trying to be the first-time champion. And that, of course, will be, first of all, coming up next, we'll talk to Keith the Rockstar Richardson, of course, the bantamweight champion. Talk to him about what he's been up to because it's been a while. I haven't seen him since October when he took that fight and that title over Reggie Barnett Jr. Then after that, we're going to talk to the featherweight champion, Kai Hefty Bag Stewart, and find out what he's been up to, getting ready for his fight as he makes his second title defense against El Gallo Duran. Of course, Duran, a guy who loves to run his mouth and then throw fists at the guy who gets baited into the fight with him. We'll see if Kai can keep his head out of the game and out of the trash talking and do what he does as he tries to defend his title. And then we'll finish up talking to Jomi, the Archangel Escoboza, of course, a friend of the show, as he gets his title shot, going for gold against Jared, Captain Deadpool Warren, and got another guy who's been on frequently. Both these guys been 2 of the more entertaining guys in the light heavyweight division. Now they fight for that 185-pound title after, it was given up by the Juggernaut to try to go get heavyweight gold. So we'll see who gets that. And we'll see if those 2 other champions can hold on to their gold. All that coming up later on in the show. But first, as I said, let's talk about what we had just happened down in Mexico. Been a long time since the BKFC went south of the border. They did it, though, again this past weekend down in Puebla, Mexico. Not really names that you know. A lot of fighters that making their debuts for the BKFC. But, of course, the Mexican boxing spirit, the Mexican fighter spirit in full force. A lot of great action, a lot of great fighters coming from down there, champions in both glove boxing and the UFC recently. Now, can one come out of there for the BKFC? We will find out down the line, but right now we got to meet some new faces and see what they could do. It was very interesting. A lot of decisions on this card, which is not something you come to expect a lot with the BKFC lately. We've had so many finishes that there were 6 decisions in 10 in 8, 9 fights. Not exactly what fans want to see, but still a lot of great action going back and forth in all those fights. But the top ones were the ones that really delivered, the ones that ended early, the ones that had some great action. Maybe a little too early for a lot of us that it ended, within or right after the first round. But you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. You want some action to finish it off. You want a good night and not just go with a full card of decisions. That's what you got to finish it off when Rodolfo Rubio versus Luis Rey Gallegos fought as the headliner card. Of course, both these guys, as we said last week, have fought in the Lux Fight League MMA fights down in Mexico. Evian Rubio on Tough Latin America that first season and one fight in the UFC before he moved on and back down to local promotions. But it was a banger right out of the gates. You had Gallegos' game. He tried to make things go down. He tried to make things more than one-sided. But Rubio just coming in there with some great power, as you see there, knocking him down multiple times in that fight. 135 right there. That was the final stoppage of the first round. But he knocks him down 3 times. That was the third time. Honestly, it could have been 4 because one of them was ruled a slip by the referee. I didn't think it was a slip. I thought he got clocked and he fell down. But it was a slip for what would have been the second knockdown, but instead becomes a slip. So the first knockdown pretty early, about 15, 20 seconds in, drops him down. A lot of good little, uppercuts and little shots off of some clinch work, some tight work there. Knocks him down the first time. He gets right back up. Then gets knocked down a second time, gets right back up again. Called a slip by the ref. Action continues a third time knockdown, or the second time technically. And then finally, that last time here would be the last with that, that left hand. I don't think the right uppercut really landed. I think it was the left hand that dropped him. But once he laid back like that, put the hands back behind the head, you knew it was not a good sign for him because all the other ones, as I said, jumped right up. If it was an MMA fight, would have been right back into the action. It's not a situation where you needed the 8 count. He just got it because those are the rules. So, he waited the 8 count, said he was good, kept continuing. Very uncharacteristic from the rest of that round when he pulled the mouthpiece out, laid back. You knew it was probably over, and it doesn't even try to get up before the 10, and that gives the stoppage victory to Rodolfo Rubio making his BKFC debut. So a great performance by him. We'll see what becomes of that. Maybe, does he get added to a BKFC card over here in the U.S.? Do they do more cards in Mexico where he can headline some more and bring some more action in there for the BKFC south of the border? We will see, but a great performance by him on this fight to headline it. Then in the co-main event, Julian Fernandez versus Lino Sanchez. Bigger guys here, both 6'3", coming in there in the light heavyweight 185 division. And interesting the way this one went, especially, as you heard if you watched the fight with Chris Lights Out Lytle and Sean Wheelock calling the action, because Julian Fernandez, this was his first time taking the gloves off. He was a glove boxer traditionally, a lot of experience in that. So with that, early on, he was using the jab, as many glove boxers do, but where he got most of the action and most of the damage done, in the clinch. That's usually what really throws the glove boxers off the first time. The MMA fighters know what to do with it. Wrestlers, as we'll see when we talk to Kai Epteback Stewart, guys who are used to in tight action, they know, use one arm, throw with the other. Glove boxers usually, once you tie up a little bit, they know they're getting broken up, so they don't have the experience with that until they get a couple fights in. That was not the way it went for Fernandez. Most of his damage was when he got in tight, got the little half clinch, throwing with the right hand, and that proved to be the difference as he gets, a couple of those matches up, a couple of those grappling to strike sessions that he got going on. I think 3 of them I counted in the round. Both all did damage, and all with, some little short hooks, little uppercuts with that right hand, holding with the left, throwing with the right around the guard of his opponent, Lino Sanchez. Didn't look like it really affected Lino in the sense of, dropping him, making him look shaken, making him look like he wasn't going to be able to continue. But what it did do was cut him up. Always a danger with bare knuckle fighting is the doctor getting involved, and that is what happened here because, that left eye of Sanchez from those right hands of Fernandez ends up costing him. We go to the corners after round 1. Dan Murgliata, in a very interesting situation, calls the doctor to come check out Lino Sanchez, and the doctor goes to the wrong corner. All of a sudden you can hear the audio, and Murgliata says, "Where's the doc?" And like, "Oh, he's checking him out." It's like, no, that's the wrong guy. Brings him over after, they get back up to the line, calls a medical timeout, has the doctor check out Lino Sanchez's left eye, And even though Lino Sanchez, says he's good to go, ready to get in there, the doctor stops it as the left eye is almost completely swollen shut. So for his sake, they stop the fight. And Julian Fernandez gets the victory by doctor stoppage, by TKO after round 1. A great performance by him, like we said, using that half clinch to really get those little short hooks, short uppercuts, make his opponent pay, swell him up, and that is the end. It could have been a great fight going further, but still a great performance by Fernandez in his BKFC debut. Like we said, a lot of decisions otherwise. Donny Matos dominated Roman Cordova by unanimous decision, 50-43 on 2 cards, 49-44 on 1. So just a complete drubbing by him. You had a great performance by Griner against Juan Alvarez. That one with a quick KO, 32 seconds. So one of the only other ones not to end by a decision victory. You had Cesar Vasquez over Eduardo Menes, TKO in the second round. Martinez over Perez by majority draw. Never want to see a draw or a majority decision, or these next coming up. Split decision for Cinco, 48-46, 48-46 the other way on one of the judges' scorecards. You also had Campos over Lopez by split draw. You had Diaz over Perez by unanimous decision. That one, again, more of a dominating performance, 50-45 on all three, but some split draws, some majority decisions, some just other draws, other split decisions. Never want to go to the judges, never want to see them not in unison on those, but still some great action in Mexico. We'll see what is next for the BKFC if they try to go back there another time for another fight night card or maybe a prospect series card. But some good action at the top this past weekend down in Puebla. When we come back, though, we're going to look forward to this card June 21st. Start talking to the fighters involved with the Rockstar, Keith Richardson, next on SportsGrid.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now. And you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. As we continue, we wrap up this card that we had down in Mexico. We got one coming up in Denver this weekend. We go over the pond back to the UK soon. Just card after card after card coming up for the BKFC. But the big one that everyone has their eyes on coming up in the next few weeks, of course, is June 21st down in Hollywood, Florida. You got 3 titles on the line, and one of those guys putting his belt up for grabs is the rock star Keith Richardson, who joins us now on the show. Keith, thanks so much for coming on with us. And before we get into the fight, before we get into, that great event you're going to be part of, first of all, we're coming off of Memorial Day. which unfortunately for too many people just means an extra day off work or some good sales they can get stuff cheap on. But obviously you as a veteran, who's fought for this country, who's lost friends, who's lost brothers, it obviously means so much more to you. So thank you for your service, and how much does this day that we all that we should take to remember those who have given their lives to protect this country mean to you?
Yeah, this day means a lot. It's usually a pretty somber day for me. Today I reflect on a lot of friends that I've lost out there. Crazy thing about the event on June 21st. It's actually the day that we lost one of my good friends and one of the Marines that I was actually in charge of, Nicholas J. White. So I got a little extra motivation coming up for that card. Those guys have always been a big reason why I do what I do. Just to make the guys that literally gave their life so I can still be here proud. I want to make sure that my life means something, and that those guys would be proud of what I'm doing.
Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for those who your brothers that we've lost to protect this country. We appreciate all that you guys have given, and I definitely didn't want to let that go without bringing it up, obviously, because too many people just think of it as another day, and it's just not supposed to be that way. So thank you for everything you and your brothers have given to us. But now let's go back and look a little bit to the happier things, and I want to look back at when you got this belt that you now hold, and now that you put up to defend in June 21st in your fight against Reggie Barnett Jr. That we had last year out in Carolina, back in your home state. What was it like for you, to win that belt? That you put on an incredible performance against him, and just made pretty quick work of a guy who's been a champ for a long time to get that title. So what was that like for you to get that belt that you fought so hard for, and especially to do it in front of your home state fans, and your home area fans down in the Carolinas?
Yeah, it was huge. It was great to be able to do it at home too. Reggie had been such a dominant champ for a while. To get to do it in front of the people that have been supporting me for years. It felt great. It was very, very emotional, especially after I lost my father. I dedicated that whole year to him. Going from debut to champ in less than a year was it was a lot of build up, and it was great to just get to unleash all that, and then party for a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen you in there. Obviously, October you won that belt. Now we're going to see you at the end of June. So, what have you been up to? Besides, obviously, you have the school, you have your team, that we see constantly on your social media. Obviously, that's a big thing for you. We talk about you and your service and being part of that team, being part of that group, being part of those warriors. And now it seems like you have kind of transitioned that life into doing it for others in your gym. Always a lot of people put up posts about their training or about their fights or about what they're doing. It seems like a lot of your posts are about those who you're working out with, those who you're trying to make better and train and get ready for their own fights. How important is that for you to be part of that team after you got out of the military?
Immensely important. They're not just a team; they're my family. We sweat together, we bleed together. We've got tight bonds. I get way more nervous when they fight than when I fight. Just because I want it that much more for them. That was one of the big things that I really missed when I got out of the military, was that brother, that camaraderie. So that's kind of the template when we made the gym that we tried to follow. We got such a great training atmosphere. Got great killers. Got great people that come in from other gyms to come and get some work with us. So it's just a good time. I've been training nonstop since my last fight. I've just been waiting to punch somebody in the face.
Well, we'll get that coming up soon. Just a couple weeks now, June 21st, down in Hollywood, Florida, against Blas. We'll see that fight. It's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to watching that and talking to you about that. But we part of the being the leader of the gym, being like you said, training everybody else, getting ready for their fights, is being the one in front, being the one leading the charge as you do. What does that do for you as you prepare for your fights? Are there things that, maybe you pick up being the one that's trying to get everyone else ready that maybe, in the back end, you're like, wait a second, maybe I'm doing this wrong, or maybe I need to work on this. How does that help you being the one out there leading everybody else as you get ready for your fights?
It helps me all the time. I've got to lead from the front. That's just how I am. That's just the type of guy I am. So I got to lead from the front, and I got all these young punks trying to take me down. Wanting to beat up on coach, or that pushes me. They're all waiting for their shot. So it always motivates me. To watch these young upcoming fighters, progress and stuff like that, and their progression just helps my progression. And it also keeps me very versatile. When I've got when I'm holding mitts, I got to hold mitts, southpaw, ortho. That's part of the reason why why my switch stance develops so smoothly, so crisply. I can't tell these guys, well, I don't do that, so I'm not gonna do that when they've got a fight coming up and stuff like that. So, it just keeps building my fight IQ, helping those guys out.
Well, it's certainly worked out for you so far, as you said, from debut to champion in a year. It's worked out great. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to break down this fight on June 21st with the champion, the rock star, Keith Richardson, here on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong, or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event on SportsGrid. We're back with the champ, the rock star Keith Richardson, once again getting ready for his great fight coming up June 21st down in Hollywood, Florida. Now, of course, you're fighting Blas here. He's had a nice little run here, undefeated as well. Not nearly the names that you fought as of yet, but the Cuban national who makes his way out of Miami, going to be fighting in front of his hometown crowd. We talked about you going and getting that title in front of the Carolina faithful. when you fought for it against Barnett. What do you feel like now as you're going into hostile territory as the champion, where everyone's going to be against you?
Yeah, I've been in hostile territory before. It doesn't really affect me much. Yeah, honestly, I just thrive on energy, whether it's cheering or booing. Just the energy in the room is going to be great. It's a great place. I love fighting in Florida. I've fought there plenty of times. I'll still bring a decent sized crew with me. So, hopefully it won't be too hostile. But I'm looking forward to it. I love, like I said, I love fighting in Florida. Hard Rock's an awesome venue. I'm ready to scrap.
We're looking forward to seeing it because every time you're in there, it's exciting. There's not been a boring fight involving Keith Richardson yet in the BKFC. Don't expect it to happen now. Your opponent now in Blaze, what do you know about him? What have you seen so far in his couple fights in the BKFC? Obviously, undefeated, 4-0. Not nearly the names that you've taken out yet, but, you can't obviously, take anything away from him for those wins. That's who they put in front of him. That's who he beat. What have you seen so far out of his style as you prepare to battle him and he tries to take your title?
Without getting too into any of the technical aspects, one, he's powerful, explosive. He's been putting guys away quickly. I think like you said, he hasn't seen quite the level of competition yet. I think he's young and confident. I think he'll come out nice and fiery. It should make for a good fight, but we'll definitely see, what kind of fighter, what kind of dog he's really got in him. He hasn't fought this. He hasn't fought a fighter like me yet. He hasn't fought somebody that really is down for whatever. When you guys watch me fight Scoggins, you guys saw that. There's no quitting me. There's no way to stop me if I'm still conscious. And then everybody else, and then in all those other fights, everybody's seen the power and the skill that I possess. It's definitely going to be an exciting fight because it always is when I'm in there. 4 fights in BKFC and 4 bonuses.
Always putting on a show for the fans, of course, is the rock star. Now as you get ready for this card, how excited does it get you more excited to fight on a card like this too? You talked about, the energy is going to be great, but when you see a card like this, any fight's going to be, you're going to have your adrenaline, you're going to have everything that you need for a fight, but when you're surrounded by such great fights as well, with 3 title fights on the same card, does that get you even more amped to be part of something like this as opposed to one where it's, where you're the headliner and maybe it might not be as good after you?
I try not to focus too much on the it's always more motivating to train for a big event, but when I'm there, I'm in work mode. I'm ready to go in there, ready to kill. That's just I have the ability to focus on the task at hand, and then as soon as that's over, that's when you can enjoy the moment. That's when you can savor all that stuff. Just making sure that the job is the focus though. Mm-hmm. And that's the loss.
Got to be, for sure. Now, of course, we don't want to look past your opponent here, but when you look at the rest of the division, I know we recently had Ryan Reber on after another performance, great performance by him against Foy, 6-0 now for him. Is he the next one that you can see? Is if you hold, as long as you're holding on to this title, the next guy that should be in line, or is it just whoever they put in front of you, not up to you? How do you approach this as the champion?
I definitely think, I definitely think he's earned a shot. I've given him an open invitation. He's a great dude. Me and Reber are friends. But at the end of the day, love to punch him in the face too. That's just how friendships are in this sport. You gotta. Especially when you're in the same weight class.
Certainly is. Well, hopefully, you have a great fight as you always do. Look forward to talking to you again and seeing you back in action June 21st for the BKFC. Thank you so much, Keith Richardson.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, brother.
using the parlays against one another, right? And being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid as we continue to get ready for this great card coming up towards the end of June. We got title fights galore, and one of those guys putting his belt on the line is, of course, Kai Stewart, the hefty bag, as we bring him back on the show, going out to defend his title once again. Kai, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. How are you feeling right now? I mean, I know you're a couple weeks out from the fight, but it seems like from Instagram and from social media, doing pretty good. I saw you out there fishing, catching a bunch of different fish out there lately, relaxing, swinging the golf club, although I don't know if you're like me as a golfer, maybe that's not as relaxing. So how's it been right now for you as you get ready to get back really serious in the fight camp and get ready to defend this title again?
Yeah, so the fishing videos are a little bit old. I uprooted everything. I felt like there was something missing. And I love my hometown. I love all that, but I traveled over here to Spokane to work with my guys, Dylan Lemery with DL Training Systems. I'm out here with Brady Heastan. He's got a UFC fight coming up June 15th, so we're on the same fight camp schedule. It's been the most incredible fight camp I've had this far. And, we're still three and a half weeks out, so I'm going to come out there a different animal, and, June 21st, I'm becoming the king of the whole organization.
Well, that's great to hear. A lot of people obviously get that comfort level being at home and training all the time, and you kind of your routine and everything. But sometimes, that could cost you. So even though you've obviously done so well so far in the BKFC, just run through everybody, gotten that title, defending that title, see that you got that that fire to still get better and shake things up a little bit, get out of your comfort zone. I'm sure bodes well for what we were getting ready to see. What made you make that decision, and what's some of the things that you've been working on out there? It's a little different than maybe that you'd be doing if you were back home in your normal Montana setting.
So nobody really knows this. I kind of wanted to keep my girlfriend safe. I didn't want people talking shit about her, but she was my main pad holder for Howard Davis, just because I had my coaches have day jobs, they all were busy. It's hard work in Montanans up there, so they just didn't have time. So my girlfriend was my pad holder, and she is an amazing Muay Thai fighter. She's great, but I needed a coach. So whenever it was kind of looking like the same fight camp as HD, I was like, dang, I was good with HD. How much better can I do with a big team, coaches that can be over top of me the entire time? And that's kind of all it was. And my strength and conditioning coach, Dylan Lemery, he was kind of the final answer for that. He said, "Dude, come out here and we're gonna make this happen, and we're gonna be a 3-time world champ come June 21st," is what he was telling me. So I said, "Screw it," and here I am, and now I'm out here for another 2 weeks. So.
Well, judging by some of the other videos we've seen there with the training, I feel bad for your girlfriend because it seems like the power's getting even more. You're working there. It seems like you're trying to put on some extra strength, some more power in those punches. Is that something that has been a focus here now as you try to continue to defend this title? Obviously, you've had your success with your style, the wrestling, the overwhelming people, and getting inside. But we started to see a little bit more power as you've come up these last couple of fights. Is that something we're continuing to work on here and trying to put more into the arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely. I know for a fact that if I put my pressure on anybody in my division for 5 rounds, I'm going to win the fight. So at this point, I got to start making some more money by getting some big knockouts. So I know I can beat anybody with my clinch. I think it's easy. I consider it easy mode. But now we're going to start knocking people out. I have to credit. I keep going back to my strength and conditioning coach, but Dylan Lemery, he's a wizard, and my cardio is just as good from before I started lifting. And actually, it's just like I've always had good cardio. It's way better now, and I've put on muscle. Which sometimes if you put on muscle, you lose your cardio, but not here. We're ready to knock people out, and I think I'm going to start with Brian Duran.
I like a post you put up a while ago. We'll talk about Duran in a second. Obviously, he's been waiting for this fight for a while, running his mouth, trying to get there, and now you're going to try to shut it and let him know that he's not on that level. We'll see how that goes, obviously, in June. But before we get into him and all of that, I'll talk back to about a couple months ago, you put up a great post about how you're champion of the underdog. So everyone's always doubted you. I think it was right after the H.G. Davis fight, because people were picking him. He was the favorite. That people keep doubting you and that you keep proving them wrong. How great does that feel every time? Because it's easy to be the one that everyone loves and that everyone thinks is going to win, but to be the guy that people keep doubting and you keep proving wrong, how does that feel for you?
It takes me back to my wrestling days, takes me back to my roots. I'm like, the more that I can keep winning, the more it just gives me personal gratitude. I really don't care what other people think. That's why the doubters have really no say to me. But whenever you win, it just feels that much better. And, I'm probably going into this Brian Duran fight an underdog, and I just don't think that's the case. So people are going to be really disappointed if they place the wrong bets come June 21st.
They certainly will. You've proven that before. And, you talk about back to your wrestling days. I see that you've even gotten back into the wrestling a little bit. I saw some training videos, and then you were in a competition. How'd that go? What made you, get back into that and throw that back into the schedule? Was it just, waiting around for the next contender? Said, all right, I don't want to keep busy. Let me, do this. Or was it just the love of it that you couldn't stay long away from it? What was it that got you back into doing some wrestling as well?
It was definitely the layoff that triggered me to want to do it and be able to do it. But it was the Montana Open. I've done the Montana Open since I was 9 years old, and they actually have an adult division now. And so all the adults that are in there love the sport. We had 2 4-timers in my bracket, a 3-timer. We had a college national finalist. We had a college champion. We had college All-Americans. I was the only one that hadn't done anything at the college level in my weight. And we scrapped. I ended up taking 3rd. I did knock off one of arguably probably the better guy in the division, Matt Weber. He was crazy in high school, crazy in college. But I got that first win, and then we battled and then ended up taking 3rd against some just crazy competition. So absolute love for the sport, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
Well, congrats on that. Always great to see, you keeping the horizons open and trying all the different things that can always factor in. Obviously, that was a big part of your early BKFC fight career, the way you use that, and hopefully we'll see that be even more so in a bigger form here. But obviously a lot of different ways you can go against Duran. He's a tough guy. He's undefeated right now. A lot of people, kind of maybe poo-pooed him a little bit early because his record was against a lot of people that maybe weren't on, the top 5 championship level, but coming off a win over Louis Lopez where he looked really good. What did you think of that fight against your old rival? And what do you think of Duran and especially his mouth? Because I know that a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way by this guy just by his constant, banter and talking and just never shutting up.
Yeah, man. He did look good against Louis, but he also touch the canvas. And I know that during my camp, Louis had so many people on his team trying to get me to lose because it wasn't they wanted to see Louis win, they wanted to see me lose. And Louis put in the absolute best training camp of his life for me. He rolled off of a couch to fight Duran, and like he was very open in that in interviews, and like Duran struggled, and I'm about to show that there is a difference between elite athletes and people that are doing this for Instagram, and Duran's doing this for Instagram. I hats off to him. 6 finishes, even against the scrubs that he's fought. 6 finishes is tough. That is a tough thing to do. So hats off to him, but his streak is gonna end, and I think it's just like HD. HD bit off more than he could chew, and the second he got in there, he realized that really wasn't the fight that he wanted. And Duran's definitely gonna taste that same stuff. I'm a different animal. I've been saying it for a long time, and I'm gonna prove why they need to treat me differently.
And going back into the Lions Den once again, fighting down in Florida in his home turf. But of course, we know that doesn't bother the champion. Kai Stewart, thanks so much for joining us. Great performances so far with that title. We look forward to seeing what you do at the end of June down in Florida once again as you fight Duran and put the strap on the line. Good luck in your training camp, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks out there in Hollywood.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. Always great. Be sure to follow, guys.
Kai Hefty Bag Stewart, the champion, getting ready to put that belt on the line against Duran. We'll see if he can shut up someone who has kept running his mouth the whole time. He's called for this fight for a long time, Duran. He thought he should get this title shot. He finally has it. We'll see if he has bit off more than he could chew, as Kai Stewart has said. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about that card. Talk to our man, Jomi Escoboza, the Archangel, is going to be fighting for a title as well down in Florida late June.
And any book that has Mason Miller is not only not listed, he's not even priced. Like Colton Cowser is priced as if Mason Miller doesn't exist.
They don't think he's going to meet the innings required, minimum, whatever things. That there might be some stipulation that they're going, we're going to put him in there and he's not going to be eligible to win. And we're going to have to give all the bets back.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on Sports, because we continue to look at this huge card coming up June 21st down in Hollywood, Florida. 3 titles on the line. One of those men is going to be fighting for one of those straps. Is Jomi the Archangel Escoboza is joining us now. Always a fan favorite on the show and in the ring. Jomi, thanks so much for your time, man. Appreciate you coming on. Before we get into this fight and how much it means and the great battle that's going to be between you and Jared, first I want to look back and I saw your Instagram post putting up there. You doing music videos now too? I mean, I know you sell $1 million homes and stuff down there. Now you're in the music video game too.
Yeah, man. You know, I've been doing a lot of extra work. You know, a little modeling gigs, a little extra work for music videos and stuff like that. Trying to dabble into the acting side. Trying to get into some action movies, maybe a Marvel movie, maybe a Star Wars movie. I don't know, something like that. You know, we're trying to get in there in the film industry as well.
Well, you gotta be diversified in your careers. I guess have different interests. I mean, it's gonna be a little harder to get in the Marvel now. They're slowing all that stuff down. Definitely not doing as many as they used to. But it'd be great to see you out there doing some stuff. I mean, you're right down there by Disney and all those studios and stuff. So hopefully we can get you in some great things. But cool to see you out there doing other things as well, diversifying your portfolio and figuring out different projects you could do. Always getting that money one way or another. But it was cool to see that. And what else, have you been up to? Obviously, you've been doing the normal day job. You've been preparing for this fight. What else, what other hobbies you got going on lately that you're adding to this?
To be honest, I've been in training camp, since my last fight. It's just like the training camp for the last fight basically rolled over into this training camp because I had no injuries, came out flawless, which was great. So it literally felt like I didn't have a fight. So I just kept training. And then, now we're here ready to unleash some brand new weapons for the world to see.
It's a long training you have considering your last fight was, back in February against Isaac. I mean, there's a 3-round fight, so it wasn't like it was one that you just went in a couple punches, knocked him out, but it was a great performance by you, picking him apart. How did you? Obviously, you felt good coming off of that. You go right back into camp, didn't take any time off, no getting away and relaxing, just right back into it. Talk us through that fight, though, from your perspective. How did you see it as you came in there with the great 3rd-round stoppage of him just before the bell?
Yeah, so that fight, I was very cautious that fight. I know Isaac's a tough fighter. He's, he comes forward, high output, just like I do, just like I have. And he's a very good grappler. He's a better grappler than I am. So in my mind, I was just, make sure I tie him up, and then whenever we get wrapped up, make sure he's not able to hit me. Make sure I don't get touched because, the name of the game and in Jomi's game, in my style, is hit and don't get hit. So, I definitely was trying to, pick him apart. I felt like I should have finished the fight a lot quicker because there was a lot of missed opportunities just from me being, a little cautious, a little extra too cautious. But yeah, man, he's a tough fighter. We battled it out. And then once I heard the boos, from the crowd, because, every time he'll wrap me up, the crowd will boo and everything. And then Big Dan broke us up, and I started, telling the crowd, like, come on, don't cheer, don't boo. Big Dan said, hey, man, they're booing you for a reason. I said, oh, hell no, man. Well, as soon as Big Dan Mergliata told me that, I said, I got to turn it up. And then that's when I threw that 14-punch combo that finished the fight.
Well, it's a great finish against a tough competitor, a guy who's been in the top of that division for a long time, and now it earned you this title shot that you get against Captain Deadpool, Jared Warren, a guy who you have sparred with before. Does it add any extra juice to this that you could, hopefully erase that red mark on your record and get the title in the same fight? Or is it just, more about the title and forget about the past?
Oh, man, it makes this fight so much sweeter for the title, and I get the rematch against somebody who I feel like I was robbed in that fight. And a lot of fans feel the same way too. But yeah, man, it's just an amazing, amazing opportunity to fight for the title and get the rematch on the same night. And it's super, super motivating. I mean, like, come on, who doesn't want to get their win back against somebody who they lost to, or especially their only loss by robbery? So, it's been very motivating. I've been waiting for this day. I knew he'll make his way to the top, and I will make my way to the top, and it would be, a battle for the belt. And now here we are, battling for the belt.
Here we are, June 21st, down in Hollywood, Florida. How much do you think, plays in your favor, your championship experience that you have? I know you'd be, as opposed to I don't know if it was you that posted someone else, that you'd be the first one to win a title in BYB and the BKFC. So how much do you think that extra level that you had to go to earlier in your career helps you prepare for this title opportunity you get now?
I mean, it's a huge motivational push, just to create and make history in such an early sport that has become the biggest rising combat sport, the biggest growing combat sport. So, it's amazing to mark my name early in the history books, and that's what we're planning to do, collect as many belts as possible at 185 pounds. All the belts that are worth taking, I got the number 2 belt, and now I'm fighting for the number 1 belt. So, it makes me the closest bare knuckle boxer to being called undisputed. So I'm the closest bare knuckle boxer that you can call undisputed. So that's the goal, is to get an undisputed style title in bare knuckle boxing.
And what can you take from the first fight? I know you just said that you thought it was a robbery, that first fight against Jared, the way the decision went, but what do you think that you can take from that fight that can propel you into victory this time around?
Fight with urgency. That fight, I fought way too relaxed. I was way too relaxed. I only threw single jabs in that fight. With all the damage that I did in that fight, to only do it with single jabs is kind of crazy, But, just walk forward, press the action like I always do. And, there was a big learning lesson to never fight, walking backwards again. And this fight, you will see a lot of action. So just be prepared for the blood, and it's not going to be my blood.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it because it's been a great, ever since that fight, we've seen great out of you with Esteban Rodriguez, that battle you guys had, the Isaac Doolittle fight you just had. Looking forward to seeing even better Archangel coming in here, fighting for that title against Jared Warner. Should be an awesome battle between you two guys. Thanks so much for joining us, Jomi, and we look forward to that fight coming up next month.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. June 21st. Get ready for beautiful destruction.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back as we wrap up another episode of Bare Knuckle Fighting's main event here on SportsGrid. Thank you so much to our guests who joined us for the show. Of course, 2 champs and 1 hopeful champ. We will see if he can get his hands on that. But, of course, the Archangel, Jomi Escoboza, fighting for that light heavyweight title. Great to catch up with him. Appreciate him on the show always, as well as the rock star Keith Richardson and Kai Heftybag Stewart, both of them looking to defend their titles June 21st down in Hollywood, Florida. Always great to catch up with the fighters, especially the ones headlining these cards, find out what's going through their head and how they're preparing as they get ready to do battle for the BKFC down in Hollywood, Florida at the Hard Rock. Going to be a busy couple weeks coming up, as we said before. Just fight after fight after fight coming up. We have this one this weekend that we're going to talk about in just a moment. But, of course, after that, June 8th, we're going to go back over to Newcastle for our Prospect Series card over the pond. You have that card coming up June 21st. July 12th, we're going to have a fight out in Temecula, back out to California for the BKFC. So lots of action going to be continuing through the summer. It's been a busy first couple months for the BKFC. It was just about 8 weeks straight of fights. Now there is a little break in between some of these, but not this week, as we said. Coming off Mexico, going right into Denver. So why don't we break down what we're going to see in Denver with this Prospect Series card coming up this weekend, May 31st, out in Colorado. Make sure you check that out on Fubo TV, on the BKFC app, on the site, anywhere you can view it, because always great action, and you can see some new faces that are trying to come up and make a name for themselves in the BKFC and get promoted to these big cards. And you know what? You're going to see some familiar ones as well. Let's talk about the familiar faces now as we break down this card a little bit. First, it's going to be headlined by, of course, Keegan Vandermeer against Sawyer DP. DP, number 4 in this division. Not often you see some ranked opponents fighting in this division for these Prospect Series cards. We've seen a couple of them, but this is one we're going to see right now with DP, number 4, 4-2 in the BKFC, coming off back-to-back KO wins. So he is coming in on a hot streak here over Mota and Miller. All of his fights, always exciting. Sawyer DP either knocks you out or gets knocked out. It's always going to be a finish when Sawyer DP is involved, going against Keegan Vandermeer, a guy who was making a name for himself 2-0 in the BKFC before he's then lost to Esteban Rodriguez, the Mohawk. As we know, a tough fighter, tough opponent for Vandermeer. We broke down that fight afterwards. We expected Vandermeer to use patience, strike from the outside. He got into a brawl with a guy who you do not want to brawl with, and it costs him as the Mohawk gets the win. Now, can he get back to, the way he has fought before, get back to being patient, get back to being, smart and looking for, the counter here as he goes against another guy in DP. Both these guys, Vandermeer himself, 2 stoppage wins, then the stoppage loss. So both of these guys have had either feast or famine in the BKFC. So do not get up. If this is getting ready to start, you glue your butt to the seat because you don't know how long it may last. Vandermeer is going to be a little taller, a little longer. So does he fight a little more, cautiously, use his reach advantage to, stay on the outside and find the ways for him to pick apart DP before finishing him? Or does he go back to that brawling style we saw not work for him against Esteban Rodriguez? We will find that out when we get to Denver because, of course, elevation always going to play into it as well. Do these guys worry about gassing out and say, you know what, I got to go for broke early because if we get to 4 and 5 rounds of a battle back and forth, is my gas tank going to be emptied at high elevation? We don't know. A lot of factors that could be playing in. Either way, I think it's going to be exciting from the get-go. So make sure you tune in for that. A lot of other great fights as well. One other one that's going to be very important, not necessarily for title contention, but for maybe who stays with the BKFC, is a fight at strawweight with the women between Christina Chris and Cassie Robb. Now, both these women winless for the BKFC. Robb 0-3, was lost to Starling, Andy Nguyen, and Hinshaw. Some tough fighters in that division. Chris has back-to-back losses over Rosala Rodriguez and Crystal Van Wyk. So these are going to be 2 fighters that need this victory, and sometimes desperation leads to some great battles. So, while they haven't put on the best performances so far in their BKFC career, both of them are going to be trying to give their best and make their name for themselves here because loser might not be back for another fight. So that could be awesome as well. A lot of other great fights as well. As you have Dominic the Bomb Carey and Andrew Strode, both those guys undefeated in the BKFC at 1-0. Both of those guys winning by KO. So another fight where it could be a lot of action, a lot of, fists flying, punches thrown, guys looking for finishes. You also have Andrew Golden Boy Yates looking to get to 4-0 as he goes against Joshua the Hellboy Huber. A lot of great fights that should be happening in Denver this weekend. Make sure you check it out. Don't get up. While we had a lot of decisions last week in Mexico, I do not expect a lot of work for the judges this coming weekend out in Denver. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in here on Sports Grid for Bare Knuckle Fighting's main event. I am Brian Ciano. We'll catch up with you next week where we'll break down all that happened at that Prospect Series card in Denver. Look forward to what's next here with the BKFC.